Okay, we've got a couple more minutes still. If anyone does have questions, you're absolutely welcome to put them in the chat. Joe is going to facilitate everything here. Hi, Evan.
How you doing, David?
Doing great. Doing great.
Thanks for the invite.
Hi, you're welcome. Joe is going to be the host and facilitator here. I'm going to be the dancing monkey. Hi, Ali. How are you doing? Latrice, it's a pleasure.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's wonderful to see you.
Thank you. Good to see you too.
Well, everyone, as we're waiting for, some people are coming in, if you'd like to introduce yourselves, bring up a little something, feel free. We've just got about 2 minutes before we start things. That should give everyone enough time. So David, here is a question in the chat. This is a good one from Lucas. Is this a weekly meeting, and can I use the same link to join these sessions? What say you?
Yes, it's probably, I don't see a reason why not to do it at the same time. We'll also do it every Friday this time for at least a while. And we can certainly go from there. I like doing these things. I hope I can keep it fresh and answer any questions, and we'll just go from there. So, and what will happen is I will renew the link for the next week. It is likely, if you've got an invite from my Google Calendar to yours, you will still be in there. If you did not get an invite from my Google Calendar to yours, please send me your email address, send me your phone number and name. I will put you in there, and it'll allow me to contact you in the future when we do something like this.
And we've got Ron. Perfect. Okay, everyone. If you would kindly mute yourselves at this. Oh, here, I will mute you all. At the end, there will be time. If you have a question, you can save it and ask it yourselves, or please write it in the chat. And here we go. I am Joe Myers. I'm a hypnotist. I've done energy work, NLP, and today I'm really excited to be joined by not only a friend, but someone who's had a really big influence on my own journey. David Barron, I'm sure you know him from Mind Control Publishing or New Hampshire Hypnosis, or you may know him from the powerful impact he's had on the world of practical results-based hypnosis. We're going to explore hypnosis in a way that's not just theoretical, but deeply practical. Whether you're just curious or already on the path, this is going to open some new doors for you. And toward the end of today's webinar, we'll also be sharing something very exciting. If you don't know about it already, it's details about a seminar that David and I will be putting on in June that has the ability to transform your skills and, more importantly, your life. So, David, welcome. I know you've been doing this work for a couple decades at least.
Yeah.
But yet your approach, it feels really fresh, sometimes disruptive, but always exciting.
Mm-hmm.
If you'd be so kind, take us back. How did you first get into hypnosis? What was the moment or experience that you had that really lit the fire?
Okay. First of all, you can hear me? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. I tell this often. I go back. I imagine I was maybe 10 years old, and I was at the Twin Falls County Fair in Filer, Idaho with my parents, and we were watching The Hypnotist. And a very juvenile admiration for his power was what sort of interested me. Here was this guy who was dressed in some sort of strange jumpsuit, but he was making people do very interesting things. And I thought, well, that's very cool. I think I would like to do that. So it was a very juvenile desire for power is what got me started. And later on in life, I exposed myself. I found some books on, this was way before the internet, on hypnosis, and played with it with myself and with some other people. I built a couple businesses. And then I met some people who messed with my mind and did an incredible job of it too. And then it really rekindled my interest in hypnosis. Now, I wanted to add something that you didn't mention, Joe, which is some of you, if your screen is on, raise of hands, who's familiar with Dantalian Jones? All right, okay. So that was me. And then years ago, I needed to sort of create a persona that had the skills. Yeah, Jeff has my book. I needed to create a persona that had skills and had an attitude that I didn't quite have yet. So I needed to create a persona that I could sort of walk into. And so I started with, I created this person, Dantalian Jones. From that, I wrote a lot of books. I got a certain degree of notoriety, likely infamy, but it was very useful. And ultimately what happened is Dantalian Jones became less useful because I got all the skills that he had and I didn't have to put on the persona, and it was a lot of work anyway. So back in 2000, no, it wasn't even 2000. I remember it was April of 1999. I started my first hypnosis practice. And I started almost in a panic. I just wanted to do this all my life. And I managed to get some money from relatives and start a practice. And it was desperation every bit of the way, getting clients and doing it and trying to pretend I'm okay. And, watching the money dwindle down in my account. But ultimately it worked out. I mean, I managed to get some great clients. I got to work with a lady who I helped her lose 80 pounds, no, 40 pounds, I think it is. And she worked with a nonprofit that provided transitional housing for the homeless. And she came to me and said, hey, I know a lot of people who can use your skill. And so she set me up working with her clients, and it sort of took off from there. Since that time, I moved to New Hampshire, where I have my major practice, and most of my clients come from there. Just so you know, I also moved from there, and I'm now in Oregon, and I work mostly, even though I have an office in New Hampshire, I work mostly here in Oregon, doing it remotely. And I would not have imagined it, 26 years ago when I started. So now I'm rambling. Does that answer your questions?
Well, David, that's great. What do you think of what it was about hypnosis? Because obviously you didn't just want the power, but what really grabbed you? Not necessarily intellectually, but emotionally. What did you see in it? Where you felt you had to master it, and then what has come from your work. If you want to include now the time to bring up the late great Jeffrey Stevens, this might be a great time as well.
Yeah. One thing I found really early on, and if you do hypnosis to help people, is there are moments when you're working with somebody and the coin drops, so to speak, and there is this change in their head, and they start to realize that they don't have to respond in ways that they used to, and gets very emotional in a very positive way. I mean, they feel incredibly good, and sometimes there are tears, and sometimes I have to hold back because yes, there's rapport, but I have to be a professional, so I can't be blubbering as much as they are anyway. And from that, when it's all done, it's like, for me, it's like this incredible sense of satisfaction that it's what's come down to. My goal and my purpose is to simply make the world slightly better. And if I can, that means just doing it one person at a time, and I'm fine to do it just one person at a time. So I've organized most of my business just doing that. It is those little moments where someone opens their eyes from the hypnosis session, and okay, and be aware I may swear when as I'm talking here, but they open their eyes and go, "Well, what the fuck was that? Whoa!" It's like my mind has been moved, and I have a little check mark on the form that they fill out that has "wow" on it, and if I get that response, I check the wow box. I got the wow. Okay. And I also get this opportunity to always test. I make certain that I test the results once we're done, so that I will tell them to poke at the bear and try to bring their problem back. And it's a very humorous and funny observation to look at them, searching their mind for the anxiety or the fear or the craving they used to have. And it's like, it's not there. It's not there. So again, the big amount of it is a sense of satisfaction, just knowing that, no, I may not change the world, but there are times I can change the world for one person, and it makes a big difference.
Well, that is wonderful. And the hypnosis you're doing now, that this is different from the NLP background I had, and what you originally had.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned before, if you could just enlighten us on how life-changing it was when you met Jeffrey Stevens.
Jeff Stevens, yeah. Okay. Well, when I first started committing myself to learning hypnosis, I met a fellow who told me, "You got to learn Ericksonian hypnosis. You got to learn Ericksonian hypnosis." And I threw myself into it. And I became pretty good at Ericksonian hypnosis. But then I met Jeffrey Stevens. And okay, who is familiar? There is a difference between Ericksonian and permissive hypnosis and direct hypnosis. And Ericksonian permissive hypnosis, it doesn't have an induction. It doesn't really test the results. You will feel something weird taking place, but you're not always sure that it's hitting the mark. And when I met Jeff, he is very direct. He tells you, "Let me be the hypnotist. Your job is following my instructions. If you're under my influence, you're under my protection. It's going to feel great." And then he starts giving you instructions. And it's so condensed and so focused. At the end, it's like, oh my God, yeah, something is definitely different. You can definitely put your thumb on the thing that has changed, as opposed to just feeling like something's weird taking place. I guess I was hypnotized. You tend to know you're really hypnotized with what I learned from Jeff Stevens. So that really made a difference for me. And another thing he pointed out to me was about the importance of ego. He introduced me to a part called the magic mirror, which is about being able to see yourself in a mirror and see someone that is lovable and kind and strong and beautiful inside and out and is deserving. And when I first was exposed to that, it just made me tear up. and I'm thinking people need this. And it is in every one of my hypnosis sessions. I make sure they leave the hypnosis session with that experience of what it's like to see someone in the mirror that is lovable and kind and strong and worthy. So he changed a lot. He made a big difference for me.
Thank you so much for that story, David. I'm sure everyone is thinking this, or they've gone through it in some way. We all have our own stories, if we've been doing this for some time. But for you, do you remember your first client or like your first breakthrough where you thought, well, this shit really works? What was that like for you?
I had worked with some friends to help them make changes, but which got really good results. But I think the one that it's a humorous study is humorous story is I just announced in some sort of, it might have been Craigslist, or I'm a hypnotist looking for clients, and this husband and wife called me, and they were into dominance and submission, and he likes to be dominated, and she wanted to learn hypnosis, and I went there. He was a great hypnosis subject, and I just told her from this point on, anytime you do this, he'll go into hypnosis and follow your instructions. We tested it, not a problem. I got an email a week or so later and said, yeah, I sent my husband to the post office in his latex pants, and that's all he was wearing. And he came back and he didn't think anything was weird. Okay, happiness for everybody. That's wonderful. That was one of my very first. But early on, I got those really dramatic, wonderful experiences where, people have a change that they just can't go back from. It's like they see the world entirely differently. They see themselves differently. They let go of fear and guilt and anger. And it's just, they walk out 20 pounds, 40 pounds lighter, and they feel it. Those are the ones that really make it important.
I admire that you kept that story on the PG level. It's a great story, Dave.
Yeah. I probably have a couple more you'll hear, but yeah.
We're going to give them their bang for their buck for the hour. Yeah. I can tell you.
All right.
So many people are afraid of like the first client moment. They wonder, what if I mess up? How did you overcome that fear? And what would you say to someone who might be stuck in the learning mode that is not ready to really, give it their all and, holding back a little bit?
I don't know. I think, keep in mind, I started with this juvenile desire for power. Yeah, I'm motivated by this 10-year-old who wants more out of controlling people. So it was uncomfortable to do it, but I forced myself into it. But I would also take times, which I recommend anyone do, which is imagine a client in front of you in the chair and talk to the chair as though the client is there. Use your voice, hypnotize whatever that imaginary person in the chair wants, and even imagine something crazy happens so that you become flexible and you modify what you do and you adapt to it. I did that a lot. When someone, it would just make me more comfortable. So I also want to emphasize it, if this is something that you're wanting to do, think of your motivation. I mean, yeah, mine started with a juvenile desire for power, but it also transformed. Once I got enough of that silly power, I realized the motivation is really about making the world a little bit better. And that's been my only motivation for keeping this going. And you can, for those who want to do it, I want to give you all my blessings and encourage you to do it.
David, I'm glad you bring that up because actually, when I first heard of you, there was a misconception because a lot of your previous books were on mind control or if I were to build a cult, and they're great titles. They're grabbers, and when I picked it up, that it was how to get people, but it was how to make the world a better place, and giving the strengthening. So I recommend those to anyone who would take the time. But going on, one of the biggest myths around hypnosis, people think it's stage tricks or mind control. Since you've been doing this for a long time and are an expert in the field, what would you say is the one thing that you want everyone to know about what hypnosis really is?
Yeah. In all of my experience, having done this, over a quarter of a century and been hypnotized a lot, hypnosis is an incredibly natural state of mind. My experience of it is it's when all of your attention narrows down to a really intense single point. And because it's hypnosis, we can focus in on anything. And all of us have had some experience where we're so involved in something, maybe playing a video game or in a sporting event or in a conversation or just even doing a jigsaw puzzle. But we get so absorbed, time stops. That's what it's like to be hypnotized. And for whoever I'm working with, my objective is to take their attention, narrow it down to a really intense, wonderful point. But I always have to help them design what that point is going to be. So I ask them not just what they don't want. They're usually really clear on what they don't want, but what they do want, which is what would be the feeling that makes them feel so good and makes them feel so good about themselves. That incredible feeling is there and present and visible in their experience. Then it's pretty straightforward from that point on. Does that answer your question?
Well, in that, and I think this leads up to a great question. What I have noticed, whether it's people in NLP, hypnosis, other types of clearing, best I've seen are typically the best people at asking questions. So, in NLP, it's the meta model. One of my mentors years ago, Hank Levin, he's no longer with us. He just said, be curious.
Yeah.
Do you lean any way on what's the best way to ask questions to find out what we're really going at?
What I do, which is pretty much standard with most people, I ask them what they want, and in that case, if they want to quit smoking, they usually tell me what they don't want, and then I'll say, if we could make what you don't want, if we could make it stop and give you a feeling that makes you feel so good, you could never have that habit pattern again. That would be the thing you want. So let's talk about that feeling. And get really narrowing in on what that feeling is, which could be a sense of peace of mind, a feeling of ease, confidence. It could be a sense of achievement or satisfaction. But once I'm really clear on what they want, that's what we go for. That's the thing we narrow their attention down into. So as far as questions go, yes, you're absolutely right about the curiosity. You keep that curiosity there, but I've managed to sort of distill it down to a little bit of a simplified questioning format.
Well, that's great, because sometimes I found myself having to get out of my own way with myself and with clients. And it's like, just go to the 40,000-foot thing, airplane. It's like, okay, where are you at? Where do you want to go?
Yeah. On that, my mentor, Jeff Stevens, and I had to experience this myself with my clients, which is he'd say, what do you want? And they'd say, well, I want to quit smoking. Okay, that's great. You want to quit smoking. So you don't want to smoke. What do you want? And they say, well, I don't want to smoke. Yes, I understand. but what do you want? And it's like hammering them until they realize, wait, I'm only giving them what I don't want instead of what I do want. My line of questioning that I just mentioned sort of bypasses that a little bit. So they start thinking about the feeling that would achieve what they want.
That's a great thing, but because I'm of the belief that, if you're trying to stop something, for me, it was sugary substances in every form. Well, you can't just quit them. You have to replace them with something. And, my wife decided that we were going to replace it with walking. So since I
Okay.
wanted
Yeah.
to stay married, I made that choice. So, yeah.
In my model, first of all, you can replace cigarettes with Altoids or something like that, but I want to make sure it's something you can be on a desert island without having resources. So I want to make sure it's emotional feeling. So that's the focus I bring to this.
That's a really key point because there's not always a 7-Eleven around. So anyway, there's a moment in almost every session when a person realizes they're in a different state. They're accessing something deeper. Can you describe what that moment looks like for you as the practitioner? How do you know someone um, that they're starting to change?
I will be honest, I don't always know, but I trust something is taking place. What that means is a clear model of what it's like when someone is like super deep in hypnosis. They have this posture, their face is completely still. It's like they're seeing something very clearly, but it's all in their head. And their responses are very minimal. And that's when I can see that they're in hypnosis. And I usually get a really good result when I see that. But I've also noticed, I mean, there are people I work with, and much to my amazement, I'm going through the session and they're not appropriately at the right time, but I'm guessing they're just phoning it in and walking it through. But I honestly I don't know until the end. And so I will tell people I don't measure hypnosis by what your subjective experience is. I measure hypnosis by the results. And so I have them tested. I say, do you still want to smoke a cigarette? Can you bring up anxiety? And I'm much to my surprise, they get the result. So that's when I charge them. Um, and just so you know, I unlike a lot of hypnotists, my policy is if you don't get the results, I am not going to charge you. I don't charge people for hypnosis. I charge them for a result. And I've done this long enough. I can usually very consistently get a result, but there have been people who um, just say, it's not working. I don't think I had my hopes out. I really wanted to, and I wish them the best. I let them know they can always return, and I either don't charge them or I refund them. It doesn't happen very often, but it's there. It's something that I can do.
Well, I love that answer because it reminds me of one of my past chiropractors who's no longer with us. Seems to be a trend in my life, but after he would muscle test, and there was absolute proof. And you do that, not muscle testing, but it's like try and bring it back. Let's make sure. And I've always admired that about your work. One of the other questions that comes up, that this was emailed in, um, a friend of mine asked the question, how do you deal with people who throughout the line, what if I can't be hypnotized, or what if it doesn't work on me?
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? Because from my experience, if you have a intellectual IQ that's high, if you're functional, you can be hypnotized. A lot of people say, oh no, I can't, but
Mm-hmm.
rather than me ramble, I'll just turn that over to you.
Well, it goes back if they start off the hypnosis session saying, "I don't think you can hypnotize me," I remind them that hypnosis is not magical; it's a natural state, and it's all about taking your attention and narrowing it down. And most of us have had that experience already. This is a very specifically engineered experience where you get to experience that by just simply following instructions. I'm sure there's some more I can add to that. There have been a few people, and I count them on one hand, where they honestly tell me I was following the instructions. I was doing exactly like you said, but it was, nothing was there. Just didn't get a result. And again, they're rare, but my experience is I'm sure anyone can be hypnotized given enough time and given enough training. But again, those rare people, I'm not entirely certain how the model of their mind works.
I think that's fair enough. I've had experiences. A former girlfriend had horrible pain in her ankle. I hypnotized her, and then she spent 3 hours after that telling me how she wasn't hypnotized, that she had fallen asleep, yet she could hear everything I was saying, and her ankle felt better.
Right.
So I guess sometimes you just have to laugh. So I looked in the chat, and Alex, thank you. You obviously have a sense of humor I like. He said, LOL, well, this is when you were telling the story earlier, David. LOL, welcome to Hypno Kink. Laugh my ass
Oh, yeah,
off.
yeah.
Yeah, Alex said that I love humor, so thank you so much for that. Now, David, I don't know if you're going to be able to top the S&M story, but I think you can. So,
Oh, yes.
What is the weirdest or most unexpected thing that ever happened to you in a session? Something that either cracked you up or just really surprised you?
Yeah. Uh, I have to give this woman incredible credit and bravery for coming to a hypnotist for this. But she called me up and she said, I want to be more excited with my husband. And this was done all entirely through Zoom. So in asking and finally when we spoke and I talked with her, she has a really good relationship with her husband. She has a couple kids. They have kids. They have an incredibly good sex life. But what she was wanting was to feel all of the excitement and horniness when they first started. And again, someone asking me, no one's ever asked me that. I feel like, my God, this woman is brave to ask me that. So I went through the very same process that I do with most people. We talked about what that feeling of excitement would be, and it's a combination, of course, of love, connection, excitement, arousal, want. It's all of these things, and so that's what was the thing we focused on. And so when we started to build it, I was watching the screen, and her face started to turn completely red and fill with sweat. And her respiration was started, and I was just like, I was being very serious in my voice, but I was laughing like, oh my God, this is so weird. And we ended it. And the session ended, and she said, wow, that was crazy. And I said, okay, think about your husband. He goes, yeah, that's what I want. And so the next session was, she said, well, what you're doing is great. My husband, we're both so grateful. He has to come home for lunch. That told me everything. It told me everything. So that was amusing because it was just I could visibly see the quality of arousal just in the flushing of the face and things like that. So yeah, that was one of the more interesting ones. Again, PG-13 adult content.
You kept it above board and everything
Yeah,
there.
and let me make very clear. I I, I didn't say anything X-rated or anything like that. It was all just about creating this feeling. And so, yeah. Anyway, next.
Well, that just shows how this work. It's unpredictable,
Mhm.
uh, but very powerful. So,
Oh,
just,
I add to that. Apparently,
yeah.
she told her friends she saw a hypnotist so she could get hornier. I followed up with me, but again, I got to give her credit for being able to do that.
She's a brave person, and hey,
Yeah,
why
yeah.
not share the results? So let's go a little deeper into outcomes. What's a client story that stuck with you? Someone who really turned their life around, not sexually, but
Mhm.
made some powerful changes that you're really proud of.
Uh, well, I mean, it again, the changes I want are just enough to make them feel happy and feel good. But there have been some people who have been abused when they were incredibly small, and so they are carrying trauma with them, and they've had it all their life. And in the hypnosis session, again, going through that, they are able to let go of whatever that hurt and that trauma is, and they know it. It's like they can't come back. They can't go back to where they were. They don't even feel like the same person. It's like, they've been totally unburdened and they move with such a lightness and they feel it. I can't say it's a specific, there are some specific events where I've done that. Very, very seldom do I do like a regression to a sensitizing event. Um, Sometimes I have, but I seldom feel I have to do that. And the result is still the same. They are unburdened. Those are the most dramatic, emotionally dramatic ones. But again, when someone goes home and they don't think they were hypnotized, but they can't smoke a cigarette, and they come back and say, "Well, I don't know what the hell happened, but you did this." That's always fun.
Yeah, I think that's what really separates the hypnosis field. When it's done well, it is immediate, it's lasting. Why do you think hypnosis works when, like other modalities, fall short? Because I'm trained in a lot of modalities: EFT,
Mhm.
havening, uh, NLP, of course, as are you. But whether I'm using any of those three, I always incorporate hypnosis because, to me, it's the best. What say you?
Mhm. Hypnosis, two things about hypnosis that make it unique. First of all, um, it's very goal oriented, it's object oriented, it's outcome oriented. So you have a point you're starting from, you have a point you need to end up, and so you can measure it. That's not true of many therapies. A lot of therapies are just a process that you go through, and I'm not down talking therapies, but they're long and uh, the results are hard to measure immediately. So that's one. But the other part of hypnosis is the whole idea of going into a trance, an internal state, it minimizes all the other distractions. Your eyes are closed. You can focus in on something very specific. You can focus in on it as though it's absolutely real, and you can have the experience. So those two things make hypnosis particularly useful when applied with other therapies.
That's great. So what about the people who've tried therapy or coaching? They still feel stuck. Um, why might hypnosis? I think you kind of touched on this, but why
Mhm.
might hypnosis be that missing piece of the puzzle for them?
It's going to depend on the quality of their outcome, on the clarity of their outcome, what they want. In other words, what it is they would want to feel. Um, and there are some other factors. If people have a severely intense personal history with lots of trauma, there are some additional challenges, but we can still move it in the right direction. If they're dealing with things like bipolar disorder that's untreated, you can get a good result certainly for a while, but that could change because of the nature of bipolar. I would say, again, the best way to sort of narrow that down would be get a good outcome in mind, get it really clear what you're trying to achieve. And then, again, the hypnosis is there about focusing the attention so there's no distractions. It makes it a lot easier.
That's just a great comment there. Thank you, David. So, wow, time goes by fast when we're having fun. Just to all of you in the audience, I've noticed I don't see all that many questions in the chat, so I'm hopefully assuming that you are enough to ask in person.
Yeah, if you want to ask in person, raise your hand, we'll unmute you and we can go from there.
Yeah, because we are leading up to that point where so if you have them, please do, and I would really love it. You've heard my voice long enough. Reading your questions might be boring, so we'd love to see you. But now, David, let's talk about
Alex, are you wanting to ask a question? Okay, you got to unmute Alex then, or maybe I can do that.
Let me find Alex. There he is. Ask to unmute.
Not yet. Hang on. There we go. Alex,
there we
what's
go.
up?
Okay, I'm hoping you can hear me. I've had problems with the mic all evening long. Have you ever had a client and you've gone through all of this and they've come out of it and they have been cured, but they don't believe that your efforts were part of their cure? And I mean, if you've encountered something like that, it has happened to me.
Okay.
sometime before everything went all BDSM and weird stuff and that sort of thing. There was on a Twitter space, and I actually trounced everybody in that space just by describing the history of hypnosis. And then she woke up and she goes, I'm sorry, I fell asleep. But I'd gone through the whole thing about having a person finding that their unconscious mind has got all the resources they need to be able to affect a cure for their problems. She told me a month and a half later she hadn't lit a single cigarette since that speech. So yeah. So
well, I haven't done it in a Twitter space or in something like that, but again, I only measured the result. And frankly, if they don't think it was me that did it, I'm still going to take I will argue to take their money because they had to work with me and they got the change when they were done. But I remind them, hypnosis, I measure hypnosis by the result. And if you got that result, that's what we got. Yeah.
Well, and Alex and David, I think you have to take the win because hypnosis it's outside of people's map of the territory.
Yeah.
To quote NLP. So like I said, the woman that I had lived with, when I got the results with her, even though she had seen me help other people, she still insisted I was asleep. It's like, well, you heard me. Well, I was almost asleep. And it's like, and you feel better. It's like, well, yeah, but it's just because it magically went away. So sometimes, you're just going to get that.
So I want to, just a show of hands. Has any of you had someone say, I don't believe in hypnosis? Okay. This is my response when someone says that, which is when it says, that's very interesting. Can I ask you a little bit more about that? Because I have found when someone says, I don't believe in hypnosis, it means one of three things. It means either hypnosis is not real. It's all fake. That's one possibility. The second, I don't believe in hypnosis is real, but I am forbidden by my faith or whatever belief system of ever practicing it. And the third, I don't believe hypnosis is real, is I believe hypnosis is real, and don't you dare fuck with my mind. Those are the three. And then so when I share that with them, I say, where does that fit with your I don't believe hypnosis is real. And so that at least starts a conversation. That's typically how I would answer it. All right.
Alex, thank you so much. I'm going to kindly mute you.
Thank you, Alex, very much.
That was great. I love the banter. And now to our great friend, I'll lower that and oh shoot. Jeremy, I'm going to ask you to unmute. You're up next.
There we go.
All right,
Hey, buddy.
thank you.
What's up?
Hey, David, nice to meet you. Yeah,
Pleasure.
so I'm new to this. I'm new to this space, and I've just been completely fascinated. I found you on YouTube, so nice to meet you
Oh, great.
virtually.
Great. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I was just kind of curious, like the three spaces of of this subject that have really fascinated me are pacing and leading,
Mhm.
priming, embedded commands, like those three specific areas. And I thought like it's really, really cool stuff. That the pacing and leading I found is nice for self-hypnosis too. But I'm just curious about have you found any ways as far as like the embedded command structure that have worked well for your clients? I'm in the coaching and all that space too, and I want to help people using these types of things.
Okay. Yeah. There.
One second here. David's rather modest. If you find this on his website, you'll see it, but you're not going to understand how powerful it is. On David's website, there is a CD on embedded commands. And I have been studying psychology for, how old am I? Okay. One way or another, over 25 years. Unfortunately, I only came across David's, I came across his work probably 5 or 6 years ago. About 3 years ago, I found the embedded command CD. It's the best on the market. I'm serious about that. That's not one smoke up his ass.
Thank you.
So there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
In addition to that,
I took your advice and oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, David.
I would also recommend, with regard to pacing and leading, there's a paper. I think I know you can download it. I don't know I think there's a small fee to it on the website called The Emotional Switch. And it's a very conversational way of making someone completely flip their mood, which is along the lines of pacing and leading. So it's a good resource for you as well. The Emotional Switch. Now, to answer your question, again, embedded commands, pacing and leading, and what else was it?
Priming. Okay. I don't well, I'm wondering about that. I don't have a lot of content to talk about priming. I know what it is. I know there are a lot of things to do that can. There's just not a lot I have applied that I can talk about priming. Pacing and leading is fun. You have to practice it a lot to get good at it. And the important thing about embedded commands is make your commands short and direct. Distinguish them by how you speak them in a sentence, and do it often. But all of that's going to be in this audio CD that Joe talked about. Is there anything more specific I can answer for you? I guess is there anything you found that's like a natural delivery pattern that has worked for you?
The emotional switch.
Okay. Yeah,
The
because
emotional
I write
switch.
speeches and stuff, and I try to help deliver messages to people.
Mhm.
But okay, the emotional switch that's on your website.
Yeah, it is. It works one-on-one. It could easily be adapted to a group as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, Jeremy, one of the things, and I'm catching myself, I should probably go back to it. If you're looking to give speeches to people, uh, when I was younger, I was, grew up being a stammerer. I sometimes still talk way too fast. So if you're giving speeches to a lot of people, what broke me of my horrible habits was I would get a metronome and I would set it for 45 beats per minute, and I would live by that motherfucker,
Wow.
you know,
Wow.
for hours a day, and that helped me get over it. Breathing techniques work great, so I hope all of those are valuable to you. Do you have another comment you'd like to, or a question you'd like to ask?
No, I just thank you for, creating content because
Sure.
you got me into this space and it's freaking awesome. I love it.
Okay.
I'm a big psychology nerd, so this is
Oh,
cool
oh,
stuff.
good. Good.
Hey, we are fucking cool.
All of us. All of
That's
us.
right.
Anyway, Jeremy, kindly, I'm going to mute you, and
Team
then
hypnosis. That's who we are. Oh,
I am going to ask to unmute. We have another one of our friends, Nikolai here.
Hello, hello.
Nicola. Yes.
Big
Oh.
fan. I've read many of your books.
Oh,
So
thank
I have two questions. One is curiosity and one is more practical.
you.
You've, first curiosity question, you've talked a lot about cults.
Mhm.
Have you ever built one?
No.
If it's too personal, you can feel free not to
I
answer.
bet I was influenced by a large group dynamic in my youth.
Mm-hmm.
What I have found that the whole dynamic of a cult, it demands so much energy and so much attention, and you have to deprive yourself of empathy in order to get people to do things. It is personally exhausting. So only a true sociopath can make a real cult, and I'm just not built that way. However,
Mm-hmm.
there are some great tools in cults. One is love bombing. Make sure everybody feels welcome. I have this. I apply this to all of my clients, which is every interaction I have with them, I want them to feel reassured, supported. I want to reframe any of their failures into lessons that are learned. I want to celebrate their victories. I want to make sure every interaction they have with me makes them feel better than when they weren't with me. That's a cult maneuver, but I'm trying to do it therapeutically here.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Second question. So I just finished reading Instantaneous Personal Magnetism yesterday. And I was wondering, considering the book's like 100 years old, I think, something like that, is there anything in there that seems immediately inapplicable anymore by like modern standards?
Gosh. Honestly, it's been so long. There's a lot that is applicable that will give benefit, but there's nothing that comes to mind that I can discard immediately.
There you go. Thank you very much, David.
All right, very good. And I think was it Latrice? Did you have a question? Yes, Minimus, Minime. Could you unmute? Do you see that, Joe?
I am looking. I'm going to. There we are. Asked to unmute. Perfect.
Okay, you should be able to unmute now, or you can ask to unmute, and Joe will give you an unmute signal for there. Latrice?
Oh,
so it's under the name Minime, Minime.
okay, perfect.
There we go.
There we
go. Hello.
Hello. I have just like two questions, right? So,
All right.
eh, what's the fastest way to know that somebody's actually in a trance, even if they're pretending? I know the voice inflection is very powerful when we're giving our suggestions, we're giving the commands, but how can we know if they're pretending or the real detection methods to know?
Sometimes I don't know if there's a surefire solid way. Keep in mind what hypnosis is turning your attention inward. And that does happen with eyes open, and you have to really train yourself to notice it. What I'd recommend you do is go to YouTube and look for a couple of shorts that are called How to Forget Your Name. And there's a couple of people who go into a public environment and they find someone in the briefest conversation, they forget their name. It's just gone. And what you'll notice is as he's guiding them through this, they're thinking about what he's saying. So you can see a little bit of the cogs turn. That's the best measurement, but it requires a lot of sensitivity and a lot of experience to become aware of it. And it's also hit or miss. That's my experience.
So do you feel like there's some point where to protect yourself, you go deeper into the hypnosis when you hit in certain points and tones?
Clarify that question. I'm not sure I understand it.
Okay, so because we use a lot of energy when we're projecting and we're putting someone in hypnosis. So what is the best way to guide somebody deep and protect yourself as well too? Because sometimes I also read an article where sometimes you could be putting someone in a trance too and also hypnotizing yourself as well if you're not using those key words and key notes to snap you back out of it.
Okay. The first thing I would say is have your intention very clear. Your intention is to get into their head and make changes that they want. And so be aware of that.
Okay.
That's how you're going to measure your success. Being distracted by other things is going to probably lead you astray.
Okay.
So focus on the intent. Focus on your client or your subject there. Okay.
Yeah, because I think that's the most common mistake that beginners make when they're deep into their trances and when they're trying to hypnotize someone is forgetting that intent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like first time someone does a hypnosis induction and they say something like, "On the count of 3, I'm going to say the word sleep." And all you have to, hang on just a second. And they go 1, 2, 3, sleep. And the person slumps over their shoulder and they're going, "What do I do now? I forgot about all my training."
Yeah.
And that's always a fun experience, but you realize, okay, yeah, you gotta practice. All right.
Thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure. It's a pleasure talking with you. Joe, we're nearing the hour. Let's talk about what we're doing here.
Well, here we go. The upcoming seminar. So you and I are putting together this because we believe a new generation of practitioners ready to step up. Do you
roaming samurai hypnotist? That's what we're looking at. Roaming samurai hypnotist. That's all I want.
There you go, my friend.
Yeah. What we're trying to do is if you go to Mind Control Publishing and you search for the hypnosis seminar. It's a product there. It'll have all the details, but I can tell you a little bit of what we're doing. It's going to happen from June 11th to the 14th. It's going to be in California. I have 2 very specific outcomes for this. One is to make those people who want to know what I do so that they can do it. Having done this as long as I have written up an operations manual of how I work. There are a couple of people here who I've shared it with. And yeah, that's a version of it. That's an early version of it right there. But it is how great. Yeah, it still works. it's how I run my business, so I don't have to think all the time. So I have all of the sessions there. I even talk about how my business is organized. So that part is not challenging. So one objective is to give anyone the skill to do hypnosis, at least how I do it. Once you learn how I do it, I'm happy to drop the leash. You can make your own hypnosis product out of it. So once you learn it, it's not mine anymore. It's yours. Improve upon it, please. That's one objective. But the other objective is, because you're learning hypnosis, you probably have an outcome for yourself. Some people have a very simple outcome. They want to develop more confidence, or they want to quit smoking. Some people want to develop a personality or a character. Like I had Dantalian Jones, and they want to develop this persona that is like large and in charge. And that's the other intent of this. Not only are you going to be learning the process that I use, but you're going to be learning it through reading my operations manual, practicing it, seeing it done, having it done on you, and then doing it. You're going to get this from every angle. So you get a very deep, visceral understanding of how the process works. And of course, you're going to get my support, when you decide to run with this and make it your own. So that's the objective. Because of the nature of it, it's sort of intense. I have limited this to only 12 people. This is the first time I've done it, but there are a couple people here that I've worked with. I've worked with Evans here. He and I have worked together doing this. Hey, Evan, and Joe is here. And Allie, you and I have not done that yet, have we? No. Okay. A little bit. Yeah. But the people I've done this with have been sort of my beta testers, and I think we have an incredibly good product here. So it's going to be in June 11th through the 14th. So it's 4 days. It's going to take up most of the day, but if you get too burned out, I will be aware of it and pace everybody. And what I'd ask you to do is, if you're interested, you have two things you can do. You can go to the Mind Control Publishing website and put your time in there, but you can also come back next week this time, and I will be happy to talk more hypnosis. Please think of your questions and email me. If you did not get an invite from my Google Calendar and you want to be on my invitation list, email me your name, your email address, obviously, and a phone number, and I will put you in my my contacts so that we can communicate at leisure if we need to. All right. I'm gonna. Yes, go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step over there. But I love how you're emphasizing that this is going to be work in real time. People are not going to be learning hypnosis theory. They're going to become hypnotists. And if you have a moment, there are just a couple of questions that didn't get addressed. Fairly simple one. The first one, this is debatable. There's some ethical things about this, but I'll ask it since it was sent to me. Can hypnosis be used for physical pain or only emotional issues? You helped me with the physical issue, but it's really key to point out that the physical issue, it wasn't like there was a cancer or something that deeper hidden. It was, I wanted to walk.
For physical pain, hypnosis is useful by there are a couple ways. First of all, and again, I learned this from Jeff Stevens, you don't get rid of the pain because the pain is there to help you from injuring yourself, usually. But you can change it. You can change it to, as opposed to a sharp stabbing pain. So as say an inflammation gets worse, it just feels warmer and warmer, and not to exacerbate it, not to make it any worse. There are some situations where the pain has no purpose. I've known a few people who have like a persistent cough, and it's not like there's anything wrong with them. And they've seen the doctors and stuff like that, and making that stop is very straightforward. That's similar to a pain, but I'm a little cautious when someone tells me to control their pain. I always have to give them a warning that I can't remove your pain. I can change it. Your pain's there for a reason, and make sure you see a doctor, please. So that's my response for physical pain. Any other questions?
There is another one that came in. It's simple, but this is I'm sure it's on a lot of people's minds. How do I know if I'm doing hypnosis in quotes right? As if there's a right way. If they're in trance, they're in trance. But
I go back. I only measure by the results.
There you go.
There are times I swear there are times I'm working with people, and they could be smoking a cigarette or clearing their throat or adjusting themselves in their chair, and I'm thinking, well, I'm just going to walk through this and see how it ends. And I think they're not hypnotized. And I say, and I'll deal with it if they're not hypnotized. I won't charge them. But end result, wow, they get the result. So again, I only judge it by you're doing it right when you get a great result. That's how you know.
Great answer, David. I like this question, and I think this goes back because you and I have similar teachers in the past. And I think this is more of an influence question. God, I apologize to Peter. I'm letting him in now. He doesn't know. Hold on one second. And now, if you are only going to hear one thing, that will be the most important thing you ever hear. Sorry, Peter. So anyway, this is kind of an influence question.
Yeah.
But in our conversation, I know you have an answer to this. Can I use these skills in business or sales?
You can. What you learn in working with people with hypnosis is you learn to be very attuned and perceptive to them. You also gain a great deal of confidence in your ability to speak. I'm not saying like Ericksonian hypnosis is really good in sales because it's all conversational. But just being aware of the people you're focusing on, having a very clear intent, and demonstrating a sense of confidence, all of those things you get from hypnosis, very useful in sales, very useful in business.
Great. There's another question, but I just saw our lovely friend Rhonda. She put a question in chat. Is there like a secret society of hypnotists that share secret rapid induction techniques or rapid results techniques?
Aha.
I sure as hell hope not.
There is a society. It's called YouTube, but it's not secret. And you can learn just about any hypnosis induction technique. You can learn a lot of bad stuff on YouTube with hypnosis. But what you want to look for are those people who are demonstrating hypnosis to another person. It's not a secret society. It's just one people don't know about that much. And I have told people, if you want to learn hypnosis, find those guys who go in the streets and hypnotize somebody, watch it a couple times, and then go out and do it and see what happens. And you'll be crazily amazed that if you do it just the way you saw it, things happen.
Great. So the final one, and I don't want to put down this question because it's very valid. It's just doing this for, as anyone who has done it for years, the pieces of paper mean less and less.
Oh, yes.
It's the question, is there any certification or recognition that comes with attending our seminar?
Yes, I will definitely have a certification. What you're going to learn over time is why a lot of people want a certification to put on their shelves. It really is the experience that makes all the difference. But I will give you that piece of paper. And I'll have something like that for you for attending. So yes.
Okay, I want to acknowledge Stefan made a comment. There is a society with secrets that they share once a year, the Irish Hypnotherapy Conference.
Oh,
thank you for that input.
very good.
Back to Rhonda. Rhonda, great question.
How do I market and find clients?
Yeah, great question.
Okay. I have to tell you that has happened only through time. I have a decent website, and I recommend if you're going to do it, have a decent website. And you will have to develop it over time and I use largely engine optimization, and I pay some people to help me with that. However, if you have a website and you don't have the money, I say just start talking to people about hypnosis. Talk to them and say, hey, I know hypnosis. I like helping people quit smoking. And then I usually say, can I show you something interesting about your mind? And then I'll give them a little hypnosis demonstration. So have business cards. So this is all much more word of mouth. It would be something that I were doing if A, I were younger and had more energy, and B, didn't have the clients I already do now. But just you have to go out and talk about it. That's basically how I started.
Demonstration is the better word. Stefan, you are completely
good point.
All
right, we should wrap this up. Is there any last things here?
Well, David, this has been amazing. I learn something new every time I talk to you. You always increase the level of curiosity. So is there anyone out there that has any last minute questions, comments, rude remarks, anything at all?
I tell you what, guys, I will, again, I'll be broadcasting this on YouTube. If you're watching it, if you're here live and you aren't on my contact list, email me and send me your email address and your phone number, and I'll make sure you're in the contacts. And okay, here's what I always end a seminar with, which is, because you're here, you're not somewhere else. So you had to sacrifice your time to be here. I deeply appreciate the sacrifice you made. Thank you very much. Please do your best and go out and make the world just slightly better. Thank you.
And David, one last question, Ali, where in California? It will be in Fremont, which is roughly, I believe, within a half hour of the San Jose airport.
It's all the information's on the website.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, everyone, thank you so much. This has been an absolute blast. I cannot wait to do it again. I hope you've all gained a lot, and hopefully we see you next week.
Many blessings. Talk to you next week. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you here.
Okay, I'm hanging up now. I'll see you. Thanks, Joe.
So long.
Bye.